Okay, so for today's story, it is on This Charming Man by Marion Keyes. I need you to go over the most painful breakup of your life. I know, not a fun topic, but just think about it. Okay, well, Lola Day, she found out that her boyfriend was marrying someone else in the newspaper. She didn't even get a proper breakup. She got ghosted via newspaper. Like, I can guarantee you that Lola Day had a worse breakup than you ever had. At least I hope so. Like, I really, really hope so. So obviously she starts calling her boyfriend Patty DeCourcy incessantly, and it just keeps going to voicemail. She wants an explanation as to one, why are you getting married? You're my boyfriend. 2, this is the woman you always told me not to worry about. 3, you're getting married to someone else. What's going on? Like, was this a misprint? Did someone just Photoshop y'all together? What's going on? And like, okay, it would be different if going into this relationship, I don't know, maybe he was just like super seedy, but the way they met was honestly, okay, it was morbid, but it was also kind of wholesome in the sense that, so Lola, her mother passed away a while ago when she was a kid, and so did Patty's parents, or one of his parents. And they actually met when she was visiting her mom at the cemetery, which I know sounds kind of morbid, but it was kind of sweet because like they really just bonded over everything. Emotionally, they just got each other, and he would take her, like he got her the most lavish gifts, which you could say is a red flag, but come on. They've been together for like, I think 2 years at this point. So like it would be different if like you knew he was cheating on you incessantly and then this kind of thing happens, like okay, but the fact that they were like, overall they had a good relationship and then this happens, like it's even worse. So Lola, she goes over to this man's house and starts ringing on the doorbell, knocking on the door, and then the driver, Spanish John, okay, the reason they call him Spanish John is because he's the driver, which it's like, dude, why would you do that? Well, why? But he's like very clearly Irish, like freckles, red hair, all the things, like okay, this man is Irish. Anyways, but Spanish John is like, oh, Lola, and Lola's like, oh my god, is Patty here? Is Patty here? And the driver's like, he and Alicia, they're here, but like you gotta leave. Don't get me wrong, Spanish John likes Lola. Not like that, but like, you know, fond of her as a person. And like, if she keeps on being this disruptive, he's like, I'm gonna have to call the cops on you or something. So like, come on, let me just drive you home and like, no harm, no foul. Lola's like, okay. And the next day she goes back and just waiting outside his house because she wants answers. And she calls her friend and she's like, can you bring me soup? And her friend is like, what? And she's like, can you bring me soup? I'm camping outside his house. So then her friend comes, not with soup, but with her boyfriend so they can both like strong arm her into the car. And then they let Lola stay with her. And in the middle of the night, Lola tries to sneak out to go to Patty's house, but the alarm goes off, so she's not able to do so. And Lola, she's a personal stylist. And like, she loves fashion, she loves clothes, she likes her job overall. But she has just been missing every single thing in the sense that she forgot to bring the dress, or she brought the wrong dress, or she's coordinating colors that just simply do not go together and are very, very unflattering for the client. So like, if Lola keeps this up, she will be out of a job because like, it's not like she's messing up on like some random person's like prom dress or something. I don't know, maybe some people would hire a stylist for that. But no, she's messing up like someone's Met Gala look, like that level. So her understudy is like, hey, look, I'll hold down the fort for a little bit. You should take a vacation. And with much coaxing and another huge mistake, Lola decides to take a vacation to Knockavoy, Dublin. And it's very countryside. It's like this small like beach community. And it's cute, honestly. And the best thing is that there's no Wi-Fi, there's no TV, there's no access to the news, there's no way to know what her boyfriend Patty DeCourcy is up to, which is exactly what Lola needs. And she's building her own community there. Like, she goes to this like random pub and the guy there, she always goes in and asks for like what the soup of the day is. So and for some reason the owner thinks it's so funny, so he's like, hey, ask the question. And Lola will be like, soup of the day, and then he chuckles and gives her the soup of the day, and she'll have some bread and a drink, and it's really nice. And she made a couple friends that basically taught her, I guess, how to get unemployment and like how to qualify for it, which she doesn't necessarily need it. So she's like kind of questioning it morally, but she's like, you know what, I don't have any income right now, so okay. Her neighbor, however, is okay, he's not an issue, but he's just like not very friendly. Like, she calls him Mr. Sourface, but like he helps her set things up in the house and stuff, and like, you know what, they can be cordial. Mr. Sourface and Lola, they're on decent terms. But yeah, Lola, she starts taking these like beach walks, and she sees the most beautiful man she's ever laid eyes on, Jake. He's a surfer, he has the surfer look, and like he'll just like wink at her, or like when they make eye contact, like he won't break it, that kind of thing. And like you can tell it's like, okay, they're gonna have some sort of romance. Except Lola, she is so jaded that she's like, no, I know the type, like once I start to have interest in him, he's gonna be done, so I will not be invested. Which, like, you can't really blame her because her last relationship, that is traumatizing. Anyways, Lola, she's coming to enjoy her life here. The only issue is Grace Gildy. Grace Gildy is a reporter, and she will not stop calling Lola. Basically, ever since the news of Patty and Alicia's engagement, Grace Gildy has been calling her nonstop. Because also, like, when Lola would tell her, like, clients and other people, like, yeah, I was dating Patty DeCourcy, who is a politician, they're like, yeah, he was dating you, sure. Because like they were never seen in public, they never made the papers, so like their relationship was kept private very well. And like I don't mean this in a mean way at all, but it's like she doesn't necessarily have the look of someone who would be a politician's wife, so obviously no one believed her. But Grace Gildy somehow heard about it, and she for some reason believes it. And Grace Gildy's like, okay, I'll pay you like $200,000 for an interview. How much do you want? Like, I'll pay you anything. Like, I need to know about your relationship with him. And she will not stop calling. Like, it'll be like 3 times a day she'll get a call. And because Lola just stopped picking up, she called a little less, to like once a day. Lola, she's annoyed because she's like, okay, why are you calling me this much? So she picks up and she's like, what do you want? Okay, it's weird because before she was going at it from like the reporter like persona of like going ham of like, but now she sounds really sad because she's like, I knew Patty too. I just look, not even for the article, like can we just talk, like I knew him. And Lola says no, but now she's like, that was weird. And then she goes on about her routine. But anyways, let's get into Grace Gildy, this reporter who somehow knows Patty or knew him, because they also have never been linked. I mean, she's a reporter, so maybe in the past, but like past interviews. So you might be thinking, oh, did they date? No, Grace and Patty never dated. But her sister Marnie and Patty dated when they were teenagers. Which, just a little brief aside about Marnie, she's currently married with 2 kids, I believe, to her husband Nick, who is an absolute angel, and she is very happy, so like that's not the issue. But Patty really left a mark on her. Like, okay, their relationship when they were teenagers, they were what, like 17 or so? So like, y'all remember being 17 and like the emotions are so high, and like if you had a crush on someone, it was all encompassing and just the feelings were overwhelming. And with Marnie and Patty, it was almost like love at first sight. Like when they saw each other, like Patty saw her like across the room and immediately beeline towards her, and then from then they were inseparable. They were so in love, so smitten, so infatuated. And it's like they had the kind of love that you would write songs about. Like Taylor Swift songs are about this kind of love, not the breakup songs, but like the happy ones. It's the kind of love where it's like you understand those sappy love songs that want to make you throw up, but then you like experience it and you're like, oh, this is what they're talking about. So it was like that. And Patty would always be at their house. Their parents also really liked him, which is rare, especially at that age. And like he was always nice to Grace too, to I guess show the level of desire they had for one another. They would just be like making out on the couch in the living room with the parents home. Like, okay, to be fair, like their parents would be like upstairs like doing their own like work or whatever, but like, bro, come on. But those were the good times, because the bad times, they were bad. Like they would get into these screaming matches with each other, and like they would break up multiple times. Like that's how bad the fights would be, and then they would always get back together. Like one time specifically Grace can remember, this was I think their first breakup, and Marnie was like, she was so depressed. Like she wanted to unalive herself. That's how bad it was. And like the way she was talking, it was almost more concerning, because like she, at this point, she had like cried herself out. Like she was out of tears and she was just like laying there limp, and she was like, I just see no point. And so like it's an intervention, because her mom, her dad, and Grace, they're all sitting around her on her bed, so like she can't do anything. And her mom is like basically just trying to like use the tools that those like pamphlets give you, like pamphlets for parents, teens who have mental health issues. And she's like asking her like, okay, well, you know, it's like, what do you say? And like, she can't fall asleep, can't do anything, and she's just melancholy. And they're all genuinely concerned for her, understandably. And then they hear this loud ass music coming from outside, and they just hear Marnie's name being like yelled out. They go to the window, and it's Patty, and he's holding a boombox, and he's like, Marnie, I'm so sorry, I love you. So Marnie goes downstairs, they make up, and then they're back together. This happens multiple times over the course of their relationship. And there were times also where Patty would get really jealous and possessive, and not in the cute way, because I'm not gonna lie, I think like some jealousy and like some possessive, like that's cute to a degree, but like there's only only a smidge of jealousy is cute. And then when it gets over to the point of like you can't hang out with that person, or where it gets toxic, that's not so cute anymore. And that's exactly where things went. And like the more jealous he would get, then the more jealous Marnie would get, because and her, okay, this is so unhealthy. This is not relationship advice at all. Do not take this advice. But the way she viewed it was like, oh, he's this jealous and possessive because he loves me so much. And like, she felt like she had to match his jealousy to show that she loved him just as much. And then college came around for Patty, because he's, I want to say a year older than her, 1 or 2 years old, 1 or 2 years older than her. And at first they're like doing a long distance thing, and it's tough. Like, she never sees him, and then he just kind of stops communicating with her. She's like, okay, I'll just see him at the holidays. Then the holidays come around, and he like has some internship abroad or something, and she just never hears from this man. And then finally he comes back to like their hometown, and they meet. And it's great. And he's like, Marnie, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to talk to you. I'm so sorry. And so like they do it a couple times, sleep together. And then when he goes off to college again, yeah, radio silence. And then finally again, she like calls him, rings him, ignore. She sees him again, and he's like, Marnie, we're broken up. We're not together. I don't love you anymore. I don't want to be with you. And yes, I did find someone else. Lychee. And Marnie does a double take, because Lychee, her friend Lychee, what do you mean? She doesn't believe it, because what the love that they shared, it was otherworldly. So like there's just no way that he could just throw it away, you know? Like there's no way that it didn't impact him the way it did and is impacting Marnie. So Marnie, she plays the Delulu card, and in a rather unhealthy way, because she genuinely believes that Patty still wants her, and like this Lychee girl, she's just a distraction. Like, this is gonna be mean. I was gonna say this is gonna sound mean, because it is mean, but it is just mean. According to like conventional standards or whatever, Marnie is way prettier than Lychee. Like, Marnie, honestly, she is angelic, cherubic looking. Like, she could be a model. That is how beautiful she is. But she also has like a youthful kind of look to her, which sounds really creepy. But to be fair, I think the youthful look was also because they were like 16. Lychee, on the other hand, she's constantly described as looking like a horse. Like, her parents still refer to her as like Lychee. The horse one, the one with that like gigantic nose. Yeah. And like, because Lychee worked with Grace, Marnie, and Patty, because that's like how they met. Like, they all worked at the same place, and genuinely like Lychee was not even in his frame of vision. Like, it was like almost his eyes would just like glaze over where she was, because she was like that irrelevant to him, which is why Marnie's like, no, there's no way. Not because the girl isn't pretty or anything, but just because the love that they have. And it's like, you didn't even know she existed. So she tries to get him to care. So like, she's ringing him, she's like trying to visit him, all these things. She even goes to his house where her dad lives and everything, and her dad would be like, you know, he hasn't been home in like a year or whatever, sorry. And finally, she pulls the best friend card. She sleeps with his best friend. So she goes to visit him at college, all haughty, all like, haha, look at me, look at what I did. Because it's like, you want to sleep with my friend, I can sleep with your friend too. And she tells him, and she's expecting him to be like, okay, I don't really understand the logic behind this, but I think she genuinely thought, like, if I make him this jealous by sleeping with his best friend, he is going to take me back. He's gonna want to, like, he's gonna realize that, yes, we're still together, like, how great their love is, and they'll be together and get married and have tons and tons of babies. I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just like, what? Like, okay, if if the way to win a guy is by sleeping with their best friend, I have so many questions. Anyways, unfortunately, that's not the effect that this has, because Patty gets so mad. And I'm not talking like you ate the last burrito, or like not like the petty mad, but like genuinely his eyes go dark. He is livid. It's like there's no soul in there because of how angry he is. And he's like, you did what? And then he starts beating the crap out of her. And he's making her repeat all these awful things. He's like, this is all your fault. If you didn't do that, I wouldn't have to do, you wouldn't make me do this. Say it's all your fault. And she's just like crying. And he's like slaps her again, and like kicks her, and again, because she's already on the floor because he beat her so badly. And he's like, say it. So she says it. I think the exact phrase he wanted her to say was like, I'm a piece of crap and this is all my fault. And she just said like, this is all my fault, like I'm so like crappy, something like that. And he's like, that's not what I said. So he kicks her again. And mind you, he's not like, it's not like a playful punch in the arm. No, he is like all his strength, like pow. Yeah, it's bad. So she's like sobbing and then saying this again. And he's like, exactly. And then he takes a cigarette that he was smoking and then plants it squarely in the middle of her palm. And so there she just has like a perfectly circular burn scar. Grace basically picks her up and takes her to the hospital like straight away. She was so badly beaten, so she's like hooked up to all these tubes, like just trying to recover. And I don't remember the lies that they told their parents. I don't know if her parents believed her, but Grace was the only one who really knew the extent of what happened and how this happened to her. And Marnie, when she regains consciousness, she's like, is Patty here? Did he visit? And Grace is like, bro, no. And Marnie's like, I need to see him, I need to talk to him. And Grace is like, girl, do you see what he did to you? Like, I'm pretty sure this isn't the first time. If it's like this, like, no, the relationship is over. Just like give it a rest. So yeah, that was the last time, give or take, that Marnie ever saw him. And they've since been officially broken up. Good riddance. But ever since Marnie was younger, and I think this relationship just really exacerbated it, but she never quite felt like everyone else, in the sense that like when she was younger, her parents would be like, oh, like what do you want to do when you're older, stuff like that. And Marnie would just say stuff like, oh, like I want to be a housewife or something. Which, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that, but it was the way she said it, like kind of like the belief of like, oh, but I don't know if anyone will like ever, you know, love me or whatever. Or it's like, yeah, I want it, but you know, kind of like a self-defeatist mentality. And so when she and Patty fell in love and everything, it was like the one source of happiness in her life. Like being in love is what makes her feel alive and happy and gives her a sense of purpose, which can be a bit dangerous. And so after the whole Patty debacle, she was always so afraid that once guys saw like the real her, they would leave. The thing with Marnie is that she views her, like she has such poor self-esteem that she views herself as just an awful specimen. And like because she's pretty, it's like, yeah, I can get a date, I can get a guy to date me, but it's like once he sees the real me, he's off. And that has kind of been the history with Marnie until Nick. And it was only with Nick that she was able to be her true self, and like he just loved her for her. And in a way, it was like Nick saved her, which I would say all as well as ends well, because it's like they have 2 beautiful kids and everything. The only issue is that Marnie will not stop drinking. It is bad. Like she will miss days of work. She'll go on like 3-day benders. Her husband has to check her to make sure that she's not drinking, and like she hides vodka bottles in her closet. Like she hides like capsules of alcohol in her shoes. And like Nick is reaching his breaking point, because this has been going on for a really, really long time, and like it's just been so bad. And one night Nick gave her an ultimatum. He was like, look, you either have to get sober, take that seriously, or I'm taking the kids, selling the house, and we're getting a divorce. And Nick, he worships the ground that Marnie walks on. So like I don't think the ultimatum really registered in her head. It did, and then it didn't when she got the alcohol craving, and she succumbed to it. And the thing that would happen on these benders and like when she would get super drunk is that she would end up cheating on him. She would be sleeping with her coworker. Would she regret it in the morning, like every time after? Yes, 1000%. But like it felt like he was the only one that understood her, you know? Everyone else was telling her, Marnie, you have a problem. Marnie, don't drink. Marnie this, Marnie that. And this is the one guy that wants to do what she wants, so she succumbs to it. And this night was no different because because here's the thing, she had been going on a good streak of not drinking. And then she's like, you know what? I've been doing so well. I deserve a drink. And so she and this coworker go out. They get drunk. They sleep together. Marnie regrets it. She goes home. I want to say, earliest, it's 3 a.m. I don't know. It's super late. And when she goes home, it's silent. The lights are off. And there's a for sale sign that she doesn't notice at first in her front yard. And she's realizing, oh my God, Nick took the kids and he's leaving me. So that's where Marnie's at right now. Grace's relationship, on the other hand, is in a bit of a better place. Let's go into that for a second. So she and her boyfriend have been dating for, I want to say 2 years, year and a half. For a while. And they're both reporters. And Grace, she loves her job, but there are just so many like grueling things about it. And she doesn't get paid that much. And like there's so many stupid articles that she has to write about things that she does not care about at all. But her and her boyfriend, they have a pretty good relationship. Like they're very in tune with each other. It's a very peaceful relationship. And something that he did also was get her a new car because her car was lit on fire. Yeah, so Damien is her boyfriend. Damien, he's trying to like track this guy down by using his like different newspaper connections and everything, because it's like everyone kind of knows everyone, so it's like around the area, so you might get a lead there or something. But Grace is pretty sure like, okay, it's just some like random thing, it's annoying, but thank you, Damien, you're the best. And so work is still pretty mundane. And then Grace gets the opportunity to interview Dee Rossini. She's a politician, and I don't know how Irish politics work, but she's trying to run for like a higher up position. Like she's trying to be in like the party committee of Ireland or something. Basically a higher power position. And so Grace gets to go to her house, and she has like a plate of cookies and everything like ready for her. And it's a very conversational interview. Like, yes, it's an interview and it feels like an interview, but it doesn't. It kind of feels like she's just talking to a friend, because Dee, she's very personable. And one thing that they address is like, okay, like your past scandals, let's talk about it. Which her past scandals are honestly so stupid. It's like she had intercourse out of a wedlock. She's single. Like, okay. The other thing would be like, she didn't shave her legs, or just stuff like that, where it's like, the fact that that's the scandal, are you serious? And so Grace is like, oh, like, what do you want to say about your scandals? Or like, the typical journalist questions. And Dee Rossini, she's like, honestly, whatever. It's like, dig up what you want. I live by the book. I'm confident. And then she points out, she's like, look, if the only thing that you can come at me for is me not being what you view as like the cookie cutter perfect woman, then like you don't really have a leg to stand on, because that's just sexism. And they like high five, and with that the interview's done. And Grace, she sees the bathroom, so Dee shows her the way. There's like another room right next to it. So I think the way it's set up, it's like the bathroom's here, and then there's another room like right here. And so Grace, she shouldn't have done this. Curiosity killed the cat. She opens the door, and then this girl's voice is like, Dee, and Grace is like, oh shit. So Dee rushes in, and she's like, there's like panic in her face, and she's like, to the girl, she's like hugging her, and she's like, hey, it's okay, you're safe. And then to Grace, she's like, basically she has no choice but to explain, but she's like, look, these are refugees and they're running away from abusive households or abusive partners. And if they're found, like, their partner will take their life. So I'm just helping them so they can get citizenship here and have a life here and everything. And she's just like helping them. And to Grace, she's like, okay, this will ruin my career. So this, you cannot tell a soul about this. And Grace is like, okay. And like, would this article do really well for Grace? Yes, but Grace has a conscience. So genuinely, like, she's like, okay, she makes a promise to Dee, like, okay, I will not say a word. She doesn't even tell Damien that like this secret is going to the grave with her. And so a couple weeks pass, it's pretty uneventful. There's some more just like annoying things happening to Grace, like not as bad as the car being lit on fire thing, but just like all these random little things, just, you know, just daily life. And then one day, Grace is specifically requested to do an interview with Miss Alicia Thornton, Mrs. Patty DeCourcy, or soon to be Mrs. Patty DeCourcy herself. And Grace is like, oh, can't some other reporter do it? Like, yeah, it's great for the newspaper. Why do I have to do it? Because her boss tells her, Miss Thornton specifically requested you. Are you serious? So Grace, doing her job, being as professional as possible, she goes over to Alicia Thornton's house, Patty and Alicia's house. And Alicia's just waiting there ready. Like, so the woman had a bit of a glow up, but like she didn't really have surgery, so like her face just kind of looks the same, but she's dressed up now, she has the money, the status, whatever. And she's like, hi Grace. Grace though, she's not playing this game. She's like, all right, let's get this started. And like Alicia's like, oh. The fact that Grace isn't like entertaining her is kind of rubbing her the wrong way. And Grace is just being super straightforward. She's like, okay, name, where'd you go to school? Okay, I know this, know that, whatever. You and Patty, okay, What about Patty? All right, would you stand by him no matter what? And Alicia, she's taken kind of aback because it's like, this is not how interviews usually go. Usually the interviewer is more sycophantic and is kind of like more of a suck up and will try to be more personable. Grace is asking these questions like she's a robot. And Alicia's like, well, he's gonna be my husband, so yeah. Grace is like jotting this down. She's like, okay, so let's say he has a policy, it severely harms others, takes people's lives. What if he cheats? You're still gonna stand by him? And Alicia, she is choosing the most PR answers she can, but the crux of it is, yeah. And Grace is like, he'll humiliate you, be responsible for genocide, and you'll stand by him. Noted. And then before Grace leaves, Alicia's trying to be like, she like grabs her arm. She's like, hey, can we talk? And Grace is like, about what? Like, what? I have nothing to say to you. And she leaves. And Alicia has this sinking feeling of maybe Patty was right. Maybe this interview was a really, really bad idea. And the reason Alicia / Lychee wanted to meet with Grace is kind of messed up because they all grew up together. Oh, by the way, yes. Lychee is Alicia, the childhood friend, because Alicia wanted to prove that she like made it to Grace. She wanted Grace to grovel, and when Grace didn't, Alicia was stunned. They all worked together actually. The job where Marnie met Patty, Alicia was working there too, and they were a friend group with Patty dating Marnie, and obviously Grace and Marnie are going to be closer, they're sisters. And Alicia always kind of felt left out, like the less than friend, and so she wanted, first of all, she wanted to date Patty, and also she kind of wanted to prove that she made it, like that she won by being with Patty. And you know, like she's all high and mighty and she's gonna be like the first chairwoman or lady, so Grace should be begging for forgiveness. And when it didn't go as planned, Alicia was, well, you saw how Alicia was. But when it gets printed, Grace is very professional. She's not biased, there's no like personal vendetta in the writing at all. She just says exactly the answers that Alicia said, which arguably makes it worse. Because it's like, my parents always say this, but it's like there's nothing more powerful than the truth, or like nothing hurts more than the truth, something like that. And that's exactly what Grace printed. And so it's like you can't even like sue for defamation or anything because it's like that's what you said. Like these are your words, I'm printing what you said. And I would guess that this is kind of what prompted Patty to reach out to Lola, because when he does, he's like, hey, I really missed you. You haven't said anything to the press, right? And Lola's like, no. And Patty's like, okay, good, don't. And that's kind of that. I hate this man. But it's a little bit of time after Alicia's interview, and then Dee gets threatened with the potential leak of the refugee story. And Dee calls Grace super frantically. She's like, I need to confirm that you didn't do this. And Grace is like, no, like these women, they have nothing. You're their only chance. Like, no, I would never do that. And Dee's like, okay, then we need to figure out who exactly is threatening to leak the story and how they know. And so Grace goes over to her house and they're like just brainstorming, like trying to talk things out, figure out who might be the source of the potential leak. And Grace is like, Dee, was anyone at the house when any of the girls have been home? And Dee is just trying to think back. She's like, oh, I don't know. And she's like, well, Patty had to come over because we had to discuss things for a campaign, because like they're currently working together. And then Grace is like, what if it's him? And to Grace's surprise, Dee is like, he came right after you did, so yeah, it probably is him. And Grace is surprised because like, if you suggest that your coworker who's like super charming that they seem to get along with, you suggest that person off the bat, they're usually not as receptive. So Grace is like, I thought you liked him. And Dee looks at her and she's like, I have to be professional, I hate the man. Grace is like, okay, but if you guys are like on the same party, why is he trying to do this to you? I don't get it. And Dee's like, he wants me out. That simple as that. And the thing with Patty is that his reputation is perfect. Like, he's so charming. The public basically loves him. Like, there's nothing on him that has tangible proof. Because like, okay, you might be thinking, what about Marnie? Okay, here's the thing. She's not in that like world, I guess. Like she's not a celebrity. Like she's just like an average person, which would make it look like, oh, this clout chasing vengeful B word. Like no one would take it seriously. And also it's like if you just have one person say that, then like it doesn't really hold much weight. But if you have like 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, a lot of people, then it holds more weight. Even just 2 people, then it's like, yeah, people might be like, oh, clout chaser, but it's gonna have slightly more weight than just one random person. And so they devise a plan. Grace reaches out to Lola again and she's like, hey, Lola Day, it's Grace Gildy. I need to talk to you. It's about Patty DeCourcy. This is not just for me. This is for the lives of other people, literally. And somehow she convinces Lola to come to Dublin and execute this plan. I think it was probably, it was a multitude of things that convinced Lola. One, it was the fact that Grace Gildy called with a plan. And secondly, a lot of it was also the fact that like other people's lives depend on this. I don't think she really went into detail about the refugees, but she also mentioned like this is the request of Dee Rossini and we really need you to do this. Also the fact that Lola wasn't the only one with that experience. So you know how Marnie's experience with Patty was abusive? Lola's experience was not much different. And look, we only went over the good in the beginning as Lola had decided to reveal to us, but their first date, quote unquote, was at an intimate toy shop. And basically whatever Patty wanted to do to Lola, it would be done. Whether Lola wanted to or not, that did not matter. There was one time Lola remembered she was sick. Like, not the kind of cutesy sick where it's like you just kind of feel under the weather, but it gives you an excuse to just like watch TV all day and you feel okay, you can still have like your snacks. No. The kind of sick where like you cannot move. You like breathing hurts because you're so sick. Patty wanted to get his lower thing wet. And so it didn't matter that she was sick. He did what he wanted. And then after, he was like, well, now let's get you to bed. What psychopathic behavior is that? And there was another time when she took him to meet her family, and her family is very like rambunctious, I guess is the word. Very like joking around. You know the way family, when you get comfortable with someone, you meet someone, like families are gonna give your boyfriend a hard time a lot of the times. So it was like that, but it's like most of the time the boyfriend's gonna like shuck and jive, you know, just like take it, deal with it. And he is being the perfect boyfriend when they're there. And Lola's relieved, like, okay, they're getting along. He's having a good time too. Like, yeah, they're making jokes about him, but like, it's okay. They weren't necessarily even bad, like the worst jokes. It's just, it was just not fun, I guess. Like jokes about like, oh, you look so prim and proper, but then like making it into a joke, that kind of thing. And when they leave, it's like a whole different person because then Patty is silent. He slams his door and he looks at Lola. They're like driving and he's driving like 70 miles an hour. And he's like, don't ever do that to me again. And then he beat the crap out of her on the road. It was like Lola was his dirty secret because they didn't go on dates or anything, which is how they managed to stay out of the papers. She would just go to his house most of the time and he would just do whatever he wanted. So that was the bad side of their relationship. And then one day they were just like watching TV or something and Patty, he was like smoking a cigarette, and to put it out, he took Lola's hand, and at first it was like kind of just, he like took her wrist like this, which is kind of weird. It's like normally you take someone's hand like that, or like, you know, he takes it, plants his cigarette squarely in the middle of her palm. It's so bad, like, and it leaves this perfect circle of a scar. And Lola's like, ow, that hurt. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought your hand was the ashtray. I'm so sorry. Like, you are a psychopath. I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just like that, like, it's just unfathomable how you can do that to someone. Anyways, but so I guess it was kind of like that solidarity almost. So Lola agrees and they go, and it's the two of them. And Grace also manages to convince her sister Marnie to confront him. And Marnie, she didn't want to, but it's like, okay, your husband left you, you don't have custody of your kids at the moment, your house is gonna be sold, you're out of a job, your sister's kind of taking care of you, why not get the closure you need, I guess? So the three of them go, Dee stays in the car, and Patty opens the door and he's like, oh, girls, so lovely to see you. Alicia and I, we were just about to get heading out, but is this gonna be quick? They march in and he's like, Marnie, looking well, hello, how are you? Ooh, you look tired though. Have the years caught up to you yet? Lola, oh, your hair is still the same. That color, that pink. I always told you should change it. Grace, oh, you look Absolutely the same as ever. What can I do for you girls? And the way it's like he's just trying to like, he's giving such backhanded compliments, and the way he's saying it is so conniving and like condescending. Grace is like, we need to talk to you. And he's like, okay, about what? You've made that clear. And Alicia comes down and she's like, oh honey, what's going on? And then Grace tells him, we want you to not say a word about the refugees or else we'll leak the story. And he starts laughing hysterically, like genuine laughter is like bellowing from the depths of his body. And he's like, what story are you girls talking about? And Grace is like, the one about Marnie and about Lola. And she's like, go on, the way we rehearsed. And Marnie, she can barely talk. Like, the words are not coming out. So Grace is like, about how you beat the crap out of them, how you were so bad to them, how you cheated on them, how you burned them, how you marked them. And she like holds up like Marnie's hand, and he's just scoffing. He's like, this is like, to him, this is juvenile, this is stupid, it's not gonna affect him. And this is really not how they were expecting it to go. They thought he would be like, okay, like 2 people, you might get a story out of it, it might do some damage potentially, so yeah, I'll agree to keep the story about the refugees silent. But he is just cackling like this is the funniest thing in the world, because he's like, oh, y'all are so dramatic. So then Grace, she's so desperate to get this to work, so she grabs Alicia's hand to see the burn mark, and it's not there. She grabs the other one, and it's also not there. Which would severely weaken their argument, because it's like, Lola, she's a stylist. It's like, okay, this could be great for your career. And Marnie, it's like, you're some random girl from his past, some vengeful ex-girlfriend. And then Grace, not knowing what to do, she didn't want to bring this up for the sake of Marnie. I mean, not only her relationship, but Marnie. Because this would, I think, absolutely shatter Marnie. Like, even more than she is now, which you would think is impossible, but oh, you'd be surprised. Grace is like, or else I'll tell about me. And she holds up her hand, and it's a cigarette mark. Now a little bit into Grace and Patty's history. As I said before, they did not date. They did not, and that is true. You see, Grace, I don't want to say she fell for Patty because it's so dramatic, but like, she had a crush on him before Marnie even knew him. They were working together like in the summer, and Grace, like, she wasn't as conventionally attractive as her sister, and before Marnie met Patty, she felt like she had a chance, you know, because working together, like, he would like help her out in ways that he didn't have to, and just like, you know, eye contact here and there, and just like all the things that feed into a crush, as delusional or realistic as it may be. Any little interaction will feed the delusion. And that's exactly how it was for Grace. I mean, she was a teenage girl, what do you expect? The only difference though is that like with Marnie, it almost felt like you would expect it, but with Grace, it's like, you're the one who's always put together, like, that's not you. So she never told anyone. Also, it's like they would have some interactions and some conversations where it's like he would be flirting with her, and it was like that tension of like, oh, does he like me, does he not? Like a will they won't they kind of energy. And then when he met Marnie, that was all out the window, because you know what happened in their relationship after. Like, they got together and it was good until it wasn't. And so Grace always felt like there was something unfinished with them, is kind of what she felt. And so while Marnie would tell her about all the dates they would go on, the things that they would do, which, like, why would you tell your sister all the details? And things like that, it broke Grace's heart every single time. But like, this was her sister, she loves her sister, so she's not gonna say anything, because like, I think her perspective was like, okay, even if I say something, that's not gonna change the situation. And then one day, Grace was actually personally requested to help Patty on his autobiography. Oh, and also another thing that really, that crush, was what he did to Marnie. Like, seeing your sister like that because of someone else, that person's on your hit list. And somehow Patty DeCourcy managed to charm his way back onto Grace's good side. Maybe it's the fact that he said something about like, you know, I always questioned my decision being with Marnie. Sometimes I look back and think I should have chosen the other sister. Bruh. And so, you know, they would have these like weekly meetings where Grace would just like help him with the editing and like taking bits and pieces of his life and making it into something more cohesive. And so she would be spending kind of a lot of time, like a lot of late nights for work. Mind you, this is all while she's still dating Damien. And at first Damien, like, he did say something, he voiced like, oh yeah, no, you're like working late a lot. And Grace is like, yeah, no, but you know, it's for Patty DeCourcy's book and everything. And even though this did make Damien uncomfortable, he's like, okay, you know what? I trust you. Okay. And then one night they're working late again and they're at his office, and she's like by his desk, I think, and he like goes, so okay, this is Grace, this is Patty, he like goes up to her like that And basically he kisses her and he's like, I've been dreaming of this for so long, da da da, all the stuff, just saying how like, you always intrigue me more than your sister. You have so much substance. There's so much more to you. You became so beautiful, da da da. Which also, that is so backhanded. Anyways, and they like get into the kiss before Grace like pushes him off and she's like, no, I can't, like Damien, and what all that stuff you did to Marnie, I can't. And then like that black look goes through his eyes and then he like slaps her because he's like, how dare you, ugly bitch. You were always the uglier one. What was I thinking? Which then made it very, very clear to Grace that like, oh, he viewed this as like something to check off his bucket list. And so he like kicks her, so she's like knocked down. She's not knocked out, she's still conscious, thankfully. So he gets a cigarette that he had been like smoking all day or whatever. He grabs her hand and like pins it down on the floor. And Grace knows what's gonna happen, so she's like trying to fight him off, but he's a gigantic man and like just, she's physically smaller than him. So like there's not much she can do. And he puts the perfect circular brand, if you will, on her palm. So that was her stint with Patty DeCourcy. And she never told Damien about that night because it's like, okay, nothing would happen with it. So it's like, why ruin a relationship? So since then they've just kind of been going on in their relationship. That bears to be fruitless though, that threat of Grace, because Patty's just like, he acts confused, he plays dumb, and then he and Alicia leave. He's like, look, we gotta go, you guys gotta go too. And then Marnie, she's the amount of anger, sadness, betrayal she feels is unfathomable. So she goes back home and just, because at this point it's like, okay, I've truly lost everything. I don't even have my sister anymore. How could you do that to me? So the bender after bender after bender, it's really, really bad. As for Lola, she's having a little bit of a better time because it's kind of comforting knowing that like you're not the only one in this miserable situation. And also it's like she had her fling with Jake, the really hot surfer dude, and now things are starting to pick up with her neighbor, which was unexpected to say the least. But every Friday they've been having these like Ireland's Next Top Model like watching marathons. It's like her neighbor, and then two other good dudes. And since then they've been getting along really well. Like she's been opening up to him and he's been just so gentlemanly and so understanding, and like he's not Mr. Sourface anymore. He's actually kind of cute. So Lola is just going back to Knockboy because she's like, all right, let's see what happens. And Grace, she is devastated because she doesn't know if Damien knows. She doesn't know if like Marnie's gonna tell Damien, if Patty's gonna tell Damien, if she doesn't know. So she's just running through the motions because she's like, we tried all this and it's not only for Dee's career, it's literally for these women whose lives literally depend on this, and he's ruining that too, and all the spiral of negative emotions and negative thoughts. Understandably so. And then she's put on the assignment to interview this celebrity Zara. And Zara, she's from Ireland, then she went to LA to become a big star. She did become a big star, and now she's back to Ireland. And she lived in LA for, I think she's just doing press in Ireland because she's still like America based, I think. The way Grace describes her is very just, oh, she's another one of those LA airheads. Okay, what do I talk about? An ED, finding spirituality, some tarot cards, what other expensive wellness routine. All right, and that's basically it, right? All right, let's go. So she goes in, and that is how she does the interview. Like, she is so unprofessional. You can tell she does not want to be there. You can tell she does not care. And she's like, okay, so I'm guessing you battled with an ED like most every other LA celebrity. All right, what next? She's like, what wellness do you do? Yoga, meditation? And Zara, she's just kind of there awkwardly. She's like, I do yoga, yeah. And then Grace, she says this to Zara. She's like, what? I'll just make this very generic, make you sound good. All right, include little tidbits here and there. All good? All right, let's go. Thanks for your time. She stands up to leave, and then Zara sees Grace's palm, the circle, the cigarette. So she like grabs Grace's wrist and she's like, now wait a minute. I'm guessing you were also charmed by Patty DeCourcy. You probably thought he was so charming, so handsome. You were smitten. You then get lucky enough to have a relationship with him, only to realize that no, being with him is not luck at all. It's actually the worst thing to ever happen to you because he hits you, he beats you, is an absolute angel with everyone else, but an absolute monster to you, and then he brands you. And now it's Grace's turn to be taken aback because she's like, oh, what? So Grace sits back down and Zara's like, why do you think I went to LA? And Grace is like, what? Because to Grace's, in Grace's mind and everyone else's mind, like the public perception is that Okay, Zara went to LA to be like a real big time celebrity. Not that you can't be a real big time celebrity in Ireland, but just like to be in American media. So that's why everyone thought she left. Because like, yeah, she became very, very successful. Like she is a household name. I would think of her as like, if Taylor Swift was a movie star, like that level of fame kind of. And Zara was like, yeah, no, I left Ireland because of Patty. We did, I mean, I know it was never in the news. It was kept very private, but we dated for a couple of years and he had just shred every bit of self-esteem, and he told me that if I stayed he would ruin my career and make it so that I could never work again. So I left. I had to. I also couldn't bear to see him. And then Zara shows Grace her palm and it has the circle, and Grace is like, has he done this to anyone else? And Zara's like, oh, remember that Olympic skier? Hannah something or other, the Russian one? Yeah, he did the same thing to her. Her career got ruined kind of because of him. Like he beat her so badly that she had permanent damage to her legs. So her career was ruined because of him. And suddenly there's hope again. And Grace is like, do you know her? You're friends with her, right? Zara's like, yeah, I'm friends with her. And Grace is like, can you fly her over here? Because this is what's going on. And she tells her about Dee. Not the exact details of everything, but just enough to imply what's going on and how Patty wants to get Dee Rossini off the party and to get her like fired, not fired, but like get her like almost impeached in a way. And this is the only leverage that they have against Patty, so he won't go public with the story. And Zara's like, I got you, I'm on it. A few days later, the gang is all back together. I don't know how she was able to convince Marnie, but she apologized profusely and she was like, look, we'll talk about our stuff later, but this is for the safety and lives of other people, like please. And she somehow manages to get Marnie back. So Marnie's there, Lola's there, Grace is there, Zara and Hannah are there, and Dee is like driving them. So now you have 5 women, 2 of whom are super, super famous. So it's like, oh, you like, especially with Zara, it's like she has nothing to gain from this. You know this is true. And so they all go, and Patty's like, he's chuckling, but he's annoyed because he's like, again, what do you want now? Your empty threats and your stupid lies. Better make this good. So they just like march in, and Grace begins. She's like, we have a proposal for you. We won't go public with our story if you do these things. We want you to leave Ireland. We want you to step down. We want you and Alicia to go anywhere but here. And we want you to withhold the article. And we want you to apologize to all of us. And we want you to donate to a women's shelter. And Patty starts cackling. Like, you thought he was laughing the other time? This is like a whole other level of laughter because he thinks this is so funny. And he's like, y'all are insane. And he's like, you really think I'm gonna give up my career because of some empty threats? You lost it, truly. And he keeps laughing. And Grace is she's faltering. She's like, oh my God, I don't, but what will you do? What will you do? Is there anything there you will do? He's just kind of humoring them. And okay, here's the thing though. Now he doesn't want the story out because of the other people that are in it. And oh my God, I almost forgot to mention this, but when he greets them, he's like, to Zara, he's like, oh, I see you've gained weight. Did you get rid of the ED? Maybe get back on it. I'm like, what? Psychopath. And then to Hannah, the one whose career he ruined, he's like, skiing anymore? Bet you can't. So sad. Like, what are you doing now? Waiting tables because of your leg? Like, this stuff that he's saying, it's like, bro, someone just boop him in the face. But like, not boop, more like, anyways. So they're like all shaken up. They look like they're about to cry. Grace sounds like she's gonna cry. But he does not want the story out anymore. Like, now he's actually scared because he's like, oh crap, like this could ruin my career. Because you have a now A-list Hollywood celebrity saying this, like this, because from like the public perspective, it would probably be like, okay, she has nothing to gain from this. She's basically #1 in America. Like, you don't need the Irish audience necessarily. You get what I mean. So it holds more weight. And then Grace very meekly, she's like, will you not go public with the article if we don't go public with ours? And will you apologize to us for what you did to us? And Patty, scoffing again, he's like, yeah, sure, okay, fine. As if an apology will do anything, but yeah, whatever you want. And now it's Grace's and the girls' turns to start howling with laughter. Because they're like, we can't believe you fell for it that fast. And now Patty looks really confused. She's perplexed. She's like, what do you mean? Because the #1 thing he hates is being one-upped or being duped. And Grace is like, that's the oldest business trick in the book. Ask for something that you want that's unrealistic, really out of bounds, and settle for the thing you actually want. We just didn't want you to go public with the article. And an apology would be nice. Of course we knew you wouldn't step down and move out of Ireland. We're not stupid. And they're like, okay, so deal's a deal. We won't go public and you won't either, but we really want that apology now. And Patty's like, what? And they're like, yeah, we were serious about the apology for what you did to us. So Patty, he's sitting in one of his chairs and he's like slumped over and he's like, I'm sorry. He doesn't even say I'm sorry, he says sorry. And they're like, no, we want one individually. It feels like almost like he'd rather them go public than have to apologize for what he did to them. So one by one, he's like, sorry Zara if I did anything to hurt you. Sorry Grace if I did anything to hurt you. Sorry Marna if I did anything to hurt you. And then they leave. And they're all so happy. Like, oh my god, they did it. They literally saved people's lives. And they got an apology, which they never were expecting ever. And Dee is also just so relieved and so grateful to Grace and all of them. Dee goes back home. Zara and Hannah go as well. And Grace goes back home to Damien. And she is so happy. But Damien is not, because he knows about Patty. And is it fair the right word? But he knows about that night where they kissed. And they break up. Grace's really happy mood is shattered and she's absolutely devastated. And now she's realizing though, it's like, wait, he knew this entire time. And she asks him that, she's like, you knew, didn't you? And he was like, yeah, I did. And she's like, then why are you being so nice to me, like with my car and everything? And he's like, I mean, because I care about you. And he's like, and he tells her that he loves her and everything, but they're done. And then an absolutely shattered, devastated Marnie and Grace take a vacation together. And Marnie, she is just drinking her time away. And this time though, Grace doesn't try to stop her. And Marnie, like, she's able to forgive Grace because it's like, okay, I get it. And I think also because like she realized that the amount of intense feelings and love that she felt for Patty, it was clearly one-sided because of how he addressed her during that apology when he saw her again, because she thought she was special. Like, it's like, I was your first love, I was your first everything. But it turns out none of that even mattered. They're both just heartbroken and they go to Greece together. They do have a fun time. And then Marnie asks Grace, she's like, why aren't you trying to stop me from drinking? And Grace, she's like, honestly, I give up. I can't control you. I can't really do anything. I love you and I'll support you from afar, but it is what it is. And the look that she gives Marnie, this is the thing that clicks Marnie into getting real help, because it's the look of pity, of just like, you can't even help it, so I'm gonna stop trying. So after their vacation, Marnie checks herself into rehab, and she has this vision of like her and Nick. They're a bit older, the kids are older too, but they're like laughing together and they're taking a vacation like at this lake house, like a cute Airbnb situation. Their daughters are like splashing them with water and they're having fun, and Nick has his like arms around her and they like kiss briefly, and she's just so happy and light. And it's to the point where she feels like it already happened, but she's like, oh wait, no, it hasn't happened yet. And so she knows, it's just like a gut feeling that she knows they're going to be okay. She just has to get to a point where she's okay, and she will be. As for Grace, she actually gets invited to Dee Rossini, basically like her party one. And surprisingly, Patty actually kept his word and didn't go public with the refugee story. So Dee was able to help him get all that sorted out. Oh, also, remember how Grace's car was lit on fire before? Yeah, that was actually Patty's doing. Unsurprising. They're all on stage, like all the party members, whatever. And Dee is giving her acceptance speech. And as she's giving her speech, she's like, and Patty DeCourcy, we are just so grateful for all that you've done for our country, but with your reputation still intact, we're now parting ways. Thank you so much. And Patty looks so confused. Basically, Dee Rossini she's firing him on stage in that moment with like, and he did not see this coming. And the fact that she said, with your reputation still intact, means that, oh, this guy did really shady shit. And everyone knows it now. But because she didn't say anything outright, it's like, you can't sue me for defamation. I just said what I said. Because it's like, I don't think legally you can go after someone for wording something like that. And when Patty gets fired publicly like that, this is live broadcasting, by the way, and everyone is just politely clapping, it's like, okay, clearly everyone hated this dude. Everyone that knows him hates him. And Alicia, the color, because Alicia Thornton, the color is draining from her face, because that day getting ready, she saw his temper and she was like, okay, but like, we're gonna be good, right? And he's like, yes, I have this job, we're gonna be fine, you can still live your lavish little life. It's bad when he's in a slightly bad mood, but this just means that tonight is going to be so much worse. And she's rubbing the circle in the middle of her palm, meaning that he started beating the crap out of her and like branding her as well. As for Grace and Damien, honestly, after Grace sees Patty get fired, she leaves because it's like, all right, night is made, all's well that ends well. And at the end of the night, she goes outside and Damien is waiting for her and he's like, look, I can forgive you. Basically just like, oh, like how he knows that she is his person and that he can forgive the infidelity and they'll be okay, basically. And they get back together, and that is the end of This Charming Man by Marianne Keyes. Oh, also, and for Lola, she and the neighbor get together, and they're happy. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this story. Oh, also, I think something I forgot to mention was that when Grace took Alicia's hand and she saw that like she didn't have a burn mark, in her mind and Marnie's was like, oh, he finally found someone that he wouldn't abuse, and it's like, why wasn't I enough to be that person? Which, like, do not think like that because that's just not how it works. But it turned out in reality, no, he was just doing all that to keep up appearances. Now that once they don't really have an appearance to keep up, she is just his personal punching bag. And the thing with Alicia Leachy is that she always viewed Patty as a prize. Like, even during Marnie and Patty's relationship, she was doing everything she could to like try to intervene and try to make him leave Marnie and everything. And then come college, that's what she did. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and there will be another one very shortly tomorrow for 17 days of Christmas. Thank you for watching. Bye!